niinku vakanttina siellä eri.
Siis onko se ihan rubineru?
Joo.
Okay.
Hopeisinasta on myyty 180 ja täyskultaisena 3 000. Mä en tiedä paljon se kullattuna on. Mun kultasepän veikkaus on
varmaan hirveän paljon.
300-400 olisi kultasepän veikkaus. On se nyt niinku yhä kalja.
Niin, juu, ihan hyvä kyllä.
Mä otan sen mun pukukelloksi.
Mä en tiedä, että on ylpeä vai huolissaan. Mitä väriä hän on?
Ilmeisesti lääkehankinta. Siellä on procurement.
Supply tai purchase tai vähän niin mitä vaan procurement tai jotenkin.
Lääkkeet sairaalalle.
Se väli jotenkin semmoinen kankea vähän se interferenssi varmaan tollanen.
Supply company menee britteihin siis. Kyllä britit osaa procurement. Procurement on niin hieno virallinen. Procurement on niin hieno virallinen.
Kyllä. Kyllä se on kun se just lääkeyhtiö, aika usein kuitenkin.
Aina muuten vielä katsoa sitä terkkopamista taas. Joo. Kyllä mun mielestä mulle on tullut niitä.
Siis mulla ainakaan, meikä siis kielitiedosta kattonut, mutta ei ainakaan samaa välttämättä ollut just.
Mä näen tästä
Kuin jälkeen.
Mä näen tästä sen verran, että onko sieltä tullut tili sirve. Aalto-yliopiston, koska mun mielestä on.
Eikä mulla ollut hyvilläkään ainakaan netpostis, kun sinne ainakin ennen tullut muistaa kirjeen tullut paikkapuittain. Aika pitkää aikaa pitää nyt kattoo noita.
En itsekään yhtään kattonut. Tää on paska kun tekee ziljoonaan mestaan.
Minusta tuntuu, että meillä on hyvältä saanut varmaan niinku vuoteen palkkaa. Yli keväältäkään.
Sieltä on jotain tullut mun mielestä.
Se on ärsyttävää, kun pitäisi olla silleen, että joo.
Hyvät joulurahat tulee sun.
Se on ärsyttävää silleen, että just kun ei oo omaa toiminimää, niin pitäisi olla helppoa sillä, että asiakas hoitaa sen palkan. Joo, ei. Ne pitää muistuttaa monta kertaa.
Ei helvetti, ei täällä muuten oo yhtään tilisiirtoa.
Joo. No
siistiä.
Joo, en oo maksanut mistään. Hyvä, että on laittanut vielä erikseen niin tiedot niille.
Mä aproboksaat. Paljonkohan sitä rahaa tulematta?
Niin
Ei me saadaan hyvät joulurahat. Kato,
no
Helsingin yliopiston ylioppilaskunnalta on tullut tuolla syyskuun lopulla.
Vitsi kun vaan muistaa, kuka nyt on ollut missäkin ja näin poispäin.
Mulla on kaikki ne lähetettynä ne.
Niin, joo, mut mulla ei niitä, missä me on ollut sit Pentin kanssa.
No, se on niiden homma hoitaa.
No niin.
Ei saa Marki. Rahaa! Sitähän tulee monta sataa.
Kyllä.
Huitu hyvä.
Joo, tulee kyllä. Hyvä saumaa.
Ihan sika hyvä. Miten finanssilaskenta voi pettää, kun mulla on välillä ollut sillä, että ei ole tarpeeksi rahaa.
Niin.
Ihme.
Juu, vähän sama itellä. Ei mikään ihme, kun ei saa mistään.
Mä lasken aina silleen, että kuukauden aikana tehdyt työt, niin niistä semmoset aggregaattoritulot ensi kuulle, että miten paljon voi käyttää rahaa. Ei täällä jumalauta ole yhtään Aalto-yliopiston ylioppilaskuntaa.
Mä katsoin, että ei se niin palkkakoittaa eikä ollut. Joo, on se ihan mukava tietysti niin, että tulee sit. Kyllä.
Ei oo muuten Niin no joo, Hy on maksanut syyskuun lopulta, mutta eihän meillä ole kai lokakuussa.
Ei, se on ollut tosi vähän, mutta mun pitää katsoa, onko sieltä keväältä niitä muuten tullut, koska siis me on ollut niistä minusta melkein jokaisessa Hyn hommassa.
Onks meillä ollut sit meillä?
Eihän niitä siis ole
Syyskuussa ei oo
siis
ollut.
lähes yhtä paljon ollut kuin näitä.
Ei, mut siis AY:ltäkään. Syyskuussa ei oo.
Niin.
Tossa on ollut ne kokoukset. Syyskuussa laitettu. Ei niitä oo paljon ollutkaan.
Siis hyvä
AYE.
Niin.
Sitten oli, mä en muista mikä se oli se tietokielon kokous, mikä oli päällekkäin.
Mut siis sieltähän on tullut, sehän oli laskutettu.
Joo, mut lähinnä, että mikä se oli se.
Niin, joo, no senhän nyt
Sen
näkee.
päivämäärä
senhän
oli
nyt näkee, että mikä se oli.
12.11.
Joo.
Welcome to Aalto-University Student Union European Council meeting 10 2019. It's Wednesday, 11th December, 5:32, opening the meeting. With item 2, recording members and deputy members of the council who are unavailable, disqualified, ineligible, resigned, and present. Elena, if you may. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's the last meeting. So let's start a roll call. Ei, kun toi olisi missä me oltiin minusta tietokin. Oliko se 12? Jos oli onko se joo. 21 mä olin siellä rahassa ja vastaan päivänä. Pitää katsoa ne sitten vielä tarkemmin. Onks meillä ollut syksyn kokous? On. Pitää katsoa se Tiina. Tai se Tiina. Mä katson se Tiina saa just sit kohdassa. Silloin jossain muualla. Pitää katsoa kevään sitten vielä. Ei syyskuussa ei
Ei niitä nyt on tullut syyskuun lopussa.
Joo.
Se on 1 tai 2 kokousta, minkä on täällä unohtanut.
Pitää katsoa, että onko se kevään tosiaan. Onko se niin maksettu?
Niin tästä mä lähdetään suoraan taas.
Niin, mutta jos se siitä sitten katsoo sen pöytäkirjasta. Yes, there are 27 members representing council present. Quiet, please. And we're going to write a speech to the employees of AYYE, op staff, and the interpreters. Also, for item 10, a request for the grant the right to speak to DF's two representatives, whose names are Linda Westerlund and Walter Berggren. So there will be the right to speak for this item. Anyone else who need to be granted the right to speak or the right to be present, or both? Apparently no. Closing item 2, moving to item 3, recording the lawfulness and quorum of the meeting. There are more than 25 representatives and me present, and the invitation to the meeting has been sent on time to the appropriate channels. So the meeting is lawful and has quorum. Closing item 3, moving to item 4, summoning 2 minutes reviewers and 2 vote counters. This is the last meeting, so this is very familiar to you. 2 have volunteers for the reviewers of the minutes. So you're a volunteer, or for what task? Volunteer minutes, reviewer of minutes. Pollari is also available as reviewer of minutes. Lukkanen. I'm available as a vote counter. We need another vote counter. I can act as one. Pietikäinen. Fantastic. So supposedly we need to have any kind of election for these officers. You can close their discussion. So the minutes reviewers are Silinen and Pollari, Lukkanen and Pietikäinen are the deputies, and Lukkanen and Pietikäinen are vote counters, and Silinen and Pollari are their deputies. Closing item 4, moving to item 5, confirming the agenda for the meeting. The agenda has been sent to you with the invitation to the meeting, and there is the board, there's one addition that they have proposed as item 15, choosing the auditing firm for 2019. We should have done this normally in autumn 2018, but for an unknown reason it was not done. So before we can start the auditing for this year, next year, we have to make the decision. So now I'll ask you, does anyone oppose to adding this item to the agenda? Probably not. We need to have 5/6 to approve, but I think we don't need to actually vote on this. Yes, everyone approves for adding this on the agenda. So I approve the agenda with the changes. Closing the 5, with the item 6, announcements. Do we have any announcements? Tapio. The last Robson Council meeting was the only meeting during my board term, and I wasn't there, and it was also the most dramatic. So I like to inform you that when I watch the stream, that is that I will not miss any meetings from this Robson Council, and I can promise that to you. Fantastic. Any other announcements? Apparently no. So we can close item 6 and move on to item 7, latest news from the central office. And Olli will inform us of that. Good evening, everyone. It's the last meeting, and also the last news from the central office. So let's head straight to it. Advocacy and communications. A couple of weeks ago, we did a statement about the situation in Hong Kong. To show solidarity for the students in Hong Kong, we published it on Twitter. Then we also have added resources for communications. Our new communications expert, Saana Lehtinen, will start her work on the 16th of December. And please, if any questions, please ask them at the end of this presentation. And so this is next Monday, 16th of December. And the student media. We had a discussion in the last meeting and made decisions. We also talked internally at the office. So the next important step is to have the more detailed specifications for this report that was requested. Because the Robson Council already talked about the affordability, but probably you also want to look at other viewpoints as well. More about advocacy and communications. The survey on the degree program for fashion is now finished. And we'll go through the concrete solutions based on this survey. And the strategy that will be implemented at Aalto in 2021 has now been approved. We have worked to influence this strategy throughout the year, and we managed to add some really good entries there. So we'll have student experience and quality of learning is one of them. We're also focusing on holistic well-being. And also for the corporate relations, the supporting student-driven activities and initiatives. So they're very good entries for us. We're glad that they are in the strategy. And we'll also continue work on the strategy next year. The community, corporate relations, and volunteer recruitments going on. On the next slide, you will see the chairpersons for their sections. And for the AYYE 10th anniversary of the volunteers, we kind of given the permit for them to start selling for our corporate cooperation. And there are artistic activities. If you heard about this historical publication that we have coming up, it will be this kind of art book, historical art book. We want this our 10-year history to celebrate it with this artistic book. And Juha Isatalo will be the author of this book. Also, we select the winner for the AYYE 10 product competition. We will publish this in January, the winner. Here we have the new section chairpersons. I will keep here. Just here for a moment, you can go through it. Excellent people all. And the section chairpersons are now interviewing section members. And we also elected some other chairpersons for some separate sections and committees. Now we have future and past events. A couple of weeks ago we had the Tokyo Christmas sale. About 15,000 visitors. Let's give an applause for that. Then we also had the association training last week. There's a lot of work for the central office, but now we have trained all the active people in the associations. And the Independence Day, we had this torture procession for university students, and it all went excellently, and also Tapio was on television. And on Friday we will have the pre-Christmas party for the Teekkari village. There's some great activities and snacks and drinks, so please be there. But you can go both, but on the same day we also have the Representing Council pre-Christmas party on the same day. There were services and real estate. The reservation calendar for our facilities are now open for special status associations. And we also talked about the regulations of the real estate properties. So it's about to merge the Teekari village and the general housing regulations. The housing sector has done very good backward work, and will also involved the campus section. There's some numbers related to housing from November. Kind of typical numbers. 2019 applicants on Domo, and little under 2,000 of them are still not living in an AYYE apartment. And there you can see average queuing time, which shows you that it's much faster to get a shared apartment than a studio. And so if you missed this, a new board was selected. Congratulations to us and them. And also because it's the last meeting, the board 2019 likes to thank you for the year with a few photos. No background for the photos. Yes, great year. Then, now we can have questions at this point, because the next section will be about the recruitment fair. It's kind of a delicate subject, because we haven't even yet started the negotiations. So the office has asked the stream to be closed for this item. But now if you have questions, let's have them now. Mentioned that out of solidarity for the students in Hong Kong, you had a publication on Twitter. Did we also publish this on Facebook? And if we didn't, why didn't we? Can anyone answer this? I don't remember myself. Yes, we have a news item on our website and also in the weekly newsletter, but we have not published it on Facebook, but I cannot say why. I'm not totally sure, but I think that's how it is. And the reason why I mentioned Twitter is that we thought that it's kind of the channel that we can reach people best. Well, nowhere it's Twitter, but it's still better than it was Facebook. No one in Hong Kong probably reads that. Yes, the recruitment fair. Yes, but something before that. Were there many applicants for the chairpersons for sections? But it's been kind of challenging. So how many applicants were there for our volunteer posts? We didn't have to reopen any applications. I don't have kind of the exact stats compared to previous years, but for some positions there were more applicants than for others. Could we have this kind of statistics that we can take into account development for the past 5 years? I'm not sure if we have this kind of data, because of GDPR we removed the information. I think it would be good if we would collect this kind of data, because it would tell us about the development of the volunteer field. Yes, that's a good idea. Yes, anything else on the question? Any questions? Apparently no. So we can now continue. Yes. And we had to bring this up, recruitment fair, but as I mentioned, the negotiations are ongoing or about to start, so the central office wished the stream to be closed now.
Closing discussions and move to decide. The Representative Council decided to place on record the news from the office. Closing item 7, moving on to item 8, which is the AYYE Equality Survey report with Jurvanen presenting. Thank you, Chairperson. How much time do you have? About 20 minutes. I'll grab my clock so I have a timepiece. Excellent. So let's go through this very concisely so we have time for questions so we can keep to the allocated timetable. Hello everyone, I'm Lauri Jurvanen, specialist in AYYE, in charge of student welfare and well-being, and also one of the harassment contact personnel of AYYE. And what I'm here to present today is in the plan objectives we have on the educational policy sector equality survey within the community, and we've undergone the survey now and we have a report, and the report has been sent to you as an appendix to this meeting invitation, and from the report we have some highlights of the results which we are going to present today. Sorry that the fact that the report currently is only available in Finnish. We have an English translation coming up, which we will send to you once we get the translation doing. For this meeting we managed to get this actual report only did with the social political sector staff members, Antti Pentikäinen and myself. Antti couldn't regrettably be here today. He is the OLL president for next week, so they have training this week, so he couldn't be here. But thank you to Antti especially for this very, very big worker, irreplaceable in all the work that we did to get this as a cross-sectoral cooperation. So in short, we had about 2 weeks of survey time in the fall, and was sent in the AYYE emailing lists, open link to all of our members, and we had 753 respondents, which is more than in 2016, which was 529 respondents. These are not comparable between them because this time we were more concise and focusing on specific issues like harassment. Equality is a broad concept, but this was something that we focused in this year during the survey. And here's some on the dividends. We had about division of gender. We tried to include gender in its all forms, and we had all the differentiation between the answers. Women are a bit over-represented here, or a bit more represented than men, but on the background of questions it was important to us that we get answers from all the universities or schools, and from the experiences from each school would be represented, so it's actually something that happens everywhere. Then on gender we also had feedback on that, what will actually develop this, that we wanted to give the option that instead of just a binary gender division, you had options other than those two. We had the other option. We'll need to think on this, whether to develop this further. And first off, we had the first subject, is that the question was that have you experienced or noticed unacceptable behavior within the school or in the community? The answer was that half had not. but about a third had experienced or noticed unacceptable behavior. Also notifiable is that a fifth of the people who answered like I cannot say, so they couldn't define whether or not the behavior was unacceptable or not. So in this day we were asking about harassment and unacceptable behavior. So these both are asked. So unacceptable behavior meaning that experiences that feel unacceptable to the recipients, that is. Then we asked what has this unacceptable behavior been based on? Has it been based on one of the following? What's the grounds or what's the target of the behavior? And here it's most clear, seen, first in the report, and here we have percentages and numeral values. So gender was the most common, the largest, and also the second being opinions or ethnic background or origins of the individual, and after that it goes quite low, but gender is pretty clear, and compared to the previous survey, gender was actually added as a specific option. Also, in where has this unacceptable behavior been perceived or seen or noticed? We had the options of saying in student activities, student union activities, for example at the university, at the school. It was seen that most of the unacceptable behavior, that the experiences that were shared, most of them were outside of studies. So 3/4 are actually students' free time activities, which depicts to our other results as well, and earlier results. And it's also noteworthy that a quarter of these experiences comes from the side of teaching and studies, from the members of staff, use of unacceptable language, unacceptable physical contact. These options is that it is worrying that 1/4 of the answers depict that these incidents happen within teaching. Then also on reporting on unacceptable behavior, what has happened, what have you done, is that if you have had experiences of unacceptable behavior, have you reported it to anyone? Where here we meant that we also include people who have also noticed any. 66% have not reported of it, so 2/3 have not reported, and it's seen that it's a pretty even split on where you've reported it to. For example, the harassment contact personnel being at 4%, which is about as big as last time we did a survey. And it's seen that, for example, the university staff is including 11%. So it does not say that out of all perceived unacceptable behavior reports by staff have not been reported. It's also one part is that this is very worrying that people are not reporting these incidents to anywhere. And here the reporting means that based on the individual's own answer, that you can report to an organizational level, or for example, like it has led to action. Then we want to find out is that if you have, if you've had any incidents that you haven't reported it, we want to find out why. We had the answer that the person, the victim itself, has perceived as the incident being of low priority. There's kind of two levels of answers that this is. We have the options here that these would be. Let's assume that the answering party of the survey does not see a need to report it. The largest option here is that I didn't believe that reporting it would actually come to anything. And also next being was that also the answer that I was afraid that the reporting would have consequences to myself. And also we feel that it's seen that students are worried that this report does not actually mean anything. Then we asked about the general atmosphere. That is the atmosphere so that the problems regarding equality can be a point of discussion and you can bring them out and bring them forth. Here it's seen pretty similar answers in the student union. Is that the atmosphere is such that you can speak about them, but the non-answering can't say option is pretty big. So here it is good to note that as the answering party in a situation where they have not tested these factors, can you test these equality issues in practical terms? Also wanted to ask about the activities of the student union. Is that how credible AYYE is as an equality promoter? Here we see that the answers support the prediction that we are credible, but once again, what we was wondering on sectors that there is about 10% that have a critique that the student union could do more, that we are not credible as an equality party. We need to think about when you think about the numbers, what is the portion of the students that are unhappy about the situation? If you have negative experiences, have we been able to actually help them? Okay, we are taking this seriously. We have these individuals in existence. There's a question which the interpreter did not hear because the hand doesn't have a microphone. As a background question, we had the gender, school, and ethnicity. Are you an international student or a Finnish student? But here we have not made a kind of a breakdown here that what group is in these parties. And in these inappropriate activities, we gave the option to actually depict a situation where you've been or observed inappropriate behavior. We got a large palette of answers for that, either like physical, inappropriate contact, inappropriate speeches, gestures, or in an electronic format, or just bullying. So a very diverse selection of solutions, but no clear-cut analysis has been made. Also, in addition to inappropriate behavior, we had harassment. And in this sense, we're talking about harassment and segregation, is that individuals placed in an unfair situation or an unfair position in relation to others based on their qualities. And here we've listed these harassment or segregation grounds, and you could answer each that was applicable to you. So the yellow ones are from the behalf of staff members and the purples from this part of students. It is also seen that gender or gender identity is the most common cause for harassment. Without grounds. And here we can see that the I can't say option is pretty high, in the sense that if you want to actually say you could completely skip this question itself as well. But if you have a situation where you're unsure, is this harassment, is this segregation, is this unjust, is that can our students actually realize when it's taking place or if it's taking place? And on parts of the university's part, we of course did not have that. Is that they think of what is this situation during teaching. So are we harassing or segregating certain individuals during studies? Also negative stereotypes. Have you felt that negative stereotypes have affected situations in your different categories? And here we can see that this my place in the student community and my participation in events are the biggest answers. So negative stereotypes concerning the individual answering the survey. Then we had, as a third section, that we had a new one. We had these kind of imagined situations and evaluating whether or not they are inappropriate or not. We wondered like what kind of questions are good or not, and the instructions were that based on these depictions and your own values, you should evaluate these situations and if they are appropriate or not. And the context was given to these answers. So the aim was here that we didn't make a question whether they have a right and wrong answer. Is that do the students actually recognize it, rather than how this context is interpreted in the situation if you are supposed to be asked to be in the situation yourself. So and we got feedback on these questions. We got thanks. And it's critical. We also made an evaluation based on gender that we got interesting answers. There's 3 questions. So you're in a student organization facility and you heard some jokes or laughing at homophobia, sexism or racism. What do you feel, this being that we have the options being always inappropriate, probably inappropriate, probably not inappropriate, never inappropriate, or can't say. So there's differentiation between the genders. So with the same depiction and same context is how it affects our survey answers. So this was noteworthy. Moving on, the same kind of phenomenon is apparent in each and every question. We had that at the Sitsi party or in this other event, we sing a song which has stereotypes based on national identity. What activity is this in your part? We also see that we have the differentiation between the genders. That the situations were so that are they typical, but are they possible or credible or realistic in that situations that can happen in the community? Here we see the differences. That, not all, we get answers to all sections, and also we have the can't say when asking for the students to evaluate these things on their own. And then on the last ones, you're at a party where you have friend of yours, while you bypass them, slaps you on the bum. What do you feel like the activity is? Here we can clearly see the effect of gender. But of course, when you are trying to set yourself in the situation, is that here you can clearly see that men generally, when depicting themselves in the situation, do they see it as inappropriate or not, versus women. So in all of these questions, there's the issue that is it appropriate or inappropriate? Of course, the context depicts whether or not. So it's easy to see the context in each and every situation, whether it always be inappropriate. So this was especially a large differentiation in this question. I don't have a picture here, but we had the report. We did one more graph. Is that people who have usually reported that they have witnessed inappropriate behavior versus people who have not. That you can see in this answer differentiating opinions. So, of course, when we are asking people to imagine the situation and set themselves in it, is that the fact that if you've had negative experiences affects this part of the survey, of course. Also tells about the fact that based on these value-based questions, what we were thinking of immediately were that when we are talking about in this community about inappropriate behavior and interjecting in it, it's very important when discussing is to define on what we are talking about and what are the backgrounds of the people participating in discussions. Do they understand the same situation currently? So kind of finding the common denominator. And also, this is a fictive situation. This was unclear, but when, for example, discussing a situation where it's clearly having a person who says that they have an experience which is inappropriate, is that are they there? How do the others understand the situation? So you can find this common ground. So what with the same text, people find different interpretations, but these three were kind of very, very interesting. So the option that they could have been very, very boring or bland, but and here we had the so here we can see the breakdown of what I just said about people who have experienced inappropriate behavior, and it affects this answer. Yes, okay. Questions? I have time, a few minutes. That is kind of recorded on information, so I will give 2 questions for this item. Microphone to Sandre. Yes, thank you for the survey. Thank you to Antti and Janne for the equality survey. Very nice piece of work that you've done for this. A comment on that actually was reiterated that many of these have been specified by binary gender, but it was interesting to see that also it was specified or broken down, and the analysis was made based on whether or not you've had any experiences regarding inappropriate behavior. So we could maybe bring other kinds of analysis. If we can get the data, for example, we can find these groups that currently we cannot identify. So who are the parties who actually need help? And we can do that. And another issue that we could actually do, a practical thing, I've also thought about it in previous meetings, which I would hope that would be grounded on these results, which is that especially sexual minorities and gender minorities in this society, they have different starting points in the job market, and these minorities feel that they are, and they experience harassment in all parts of life, which is also seen in the survey. So it's heightened the fact that gender is the biggest factor in harassment, and I'm afraid that people who do not identify in a binary gender, it's also probably close to 100% of them who have been harassed based on their gender at some point. And in these AYYE activities, these minorities are not actually very preeminent or visible, and we don't really offer them support. And I hope that they feel that these are minorities that might be found in these unhappy masses that we have, the percentages that there are. And in the last meeting and in other very meetings during these 3 seasons is that we talk about these increases in association grants, and we need a definite criterion that we have several associations that would need an increase in these supports from the AYYE. And if we are doing this, I could see that we have the GAY association that supports gender minorities would actually fulfill these criterion for increases in grants from AYYE. And for this association, getting this increase would actually be very, very crucial. And we aren't currently doing anything for these minorities. So this is something that I hope that this representative council and the upcoming representative councils will actually take into account when thinking of criterion and budgets. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your comment. I think that we can do more analysis, we can get more data. We have the material, but also was based on the report that in the open answers it was very, very clear that we had several answers, or the gender diversity and diversity of gender, individual answers on situations, but also in inappropriate behavior, that we have had people who have been misgendered, or actually you've been placed on a binary gender based on, for example, your physical appearance. So we were thinking on how to actually promote gender equality, is that we give up these concerns which give up these practices which are binary gendered based and use language which is non-gendered. For example, promoting bathrooms and rooms for changing clothes. So this is something that we could hopefully get, that when you have people who sign up for the university or the school, they have only the binary gender there available, and we cannot get this data, but from these own reports we can get the data of non-binary gender students where we can do things. I'm sorry, we don't have any more time for this item, and we only have people here. We need to get going with the item. So closing decision, discussions and proposal that the council decide to place on record the equality survey report and the discussion on the topic. Decided. Regrettably, we also have 18 items on the agenda. We have 26 people in the room. This is not a decision issue. You can ask Janne about these issues. This is not about the contents of the matter. This is a fact that we have 18 items on the agenda. We have decisions. So this is just for your information. Thank you. Thank you, Jurvanen. And decided. Moving on to item 9, amendments to the housing regulations.
Yes, hello. Kirsi Veijala, expert on housing at AYYE. First time I'm holding this clicker. So what should I press? It's this one? Yes, thank you. Yes, also my colleague here, Saila. She's our housing advisor. So if you need kind of practical questions, she's the one who will answer. Let's really now go through what this change is. So what changes are coming up? We'll make the friend exchange easier. We have already that in use. And then there's a new way to propose a friend to a shared apartment. And then that we add 3 items to our scoring instructions because of this proposal of friend to a shared apartment. So that's why, because of that, we want to add two more items in addition to that we've discussed for a long time. And then we will fix all kind of outdated terms such as housing office and things like that. So what the friend exchange is like. Now, if people live in a family or friend apartment with 2 or more rooms, and one of the people there leave, then the other tenant may continue living in the apartment or do a friend exchange. If this person stays in the apartment, then after we have terminated the employment contract, this person will receive urgency points for their next application. Or if they do this friend exchange, 2 conditions must be met. The current tenancy contract has lasted for at least 6 months, and the person who will come there to friend exchange already needs to be a main tenant at AYYE. So how to make it easier? The friend exchange, we will change this to 2 months from 6 months, but we will keep the condition that their friend needs to be a main tenant already, so they cannot bypass the quo. And so if you want to tell about them, you have this kind of the current model and then the kind of the utopia model. So in the current model, if you have, for example, Matti and Maija, who are living in a friend apartment, have moved there in January, and then Matti gets offer for a studio starting from May. Matti leaves the friend apartment, but Maija wants to stay, wants to do a friend exchange, but she can't because it hasn't been valid for 6 months, the tenancy. Which means that Maija can live there until the term of cancellation, which is 3 months. And because change is great, the situation is totally different in this utopistic situation. So if we have this, instead of 6 months, it would be 2 months, then of course they can do the friend exchange, and Maija can have a friend to come live in the friend apartment. She doesn't have to worry that, and Matti doesn't worry that Maija is left homeless when he moves to a studio. Here's another example. This friend have lived in a 2-room apartment and have been a quo for a 3-room apartment because they want more space. And immediately when they have moved into the 3-room apartment, one of them gets an offer for a studio. And if they lived in the 2-room apartment for 2 years, the term starts from the new apartment for the 3-room apartment. So it doesn't matter how long they have lived in the previous apartment to that. And here the utopistic scenario. If we can do the friend exchange after 2 months of tenancy, Werner will not be left homeless. And we'll have a new friend come move in with him into the new 3-room apartment. And it's just one thing that we have in the regulation related to housing is to change 6 months to 2 months. And a totally new thing is to propose a friend to a shared apartment. We can change, kind of switch apartments, or it's very equal, transparent. The way we hand out the apartment, and ARA demands that we need to give apartments to people primarily based on the need for apartment and secondarily based on the person's income and wealth. And we have the scoring for this. So we have, they're not very big, the kind of differences between the different criteria, the scores. And then if you want additional points, you need to have some kind of attachments delivered. And we have already this apartment switching. For example, you can switch apartment from Leppävaara to Otaniemi, from eastern Helsinki to the Teekkari village. And you can switch apartments by going into the quo. And then you have kind of an internal transfer from a similar housing type to another, to the same housing type. But now we want to give this opportunity to people that they could propose a friend to their shared apartment. And these are really in line with our real estate strategy because we want to increase the popularity of shared living. About these important things. And according to all of kind of surveys, we have seen that most important thing for the tenant is that they can kind of have an effect, have influence their living themselves. So it's very simple. So a friend who lives in a shared apartment can propose a friend to come move in with them. Do the application and Domo and then just wait. And we can also have this kind of a cross application, so they can both apply to the other person's shared apartment and just wait. It seems easy and simple on paper, but in the actual manual work it's not that simple. That's just a small thing, because that's what we want to do, what we want to achieve. And Soile also has the current model and the utopistic scenario. So in the current model, we have this kind of 2-person shared apartments, where we have 2 rooms. And for example, Rosa lives in shared apartment, and the other person moves away, and we can ask for Rosa for a friend to move in that she knows. So then Riina will apply for the shared apartment. And if someone else has already applied for this shared apartment, they will will not be given to Riina, but to some kind of a stranger. But luckily we had this utopistic scenario when this other tenant moves away from the shared apartment, or even before that, Roos can propose that Riina could move in with her to shared apartment, which would mean that Riina would receive the points given for this propose a friend solution, putting her on the front of the line for this shared apartment. But they will not bypass the quo, because it will also be freed up to others as well. And then another example where it's just a bigger shared apartment. Jesse lives in a shared apartment. There's a lot of turnover of tenants. There are so many rooms. Jesse's friend Joona lives in Eastern Helsinki, which is pretty far away from Otaniemi. He doesn't know many people there. He wants to live in Otaniemi. But it's very difficult if he just has to traditionally wait in line. And also the likelihood that Joona would end up in the same apartment, it's very, very small. But in the utopistic scenario, if Jesse has proposed Joona as a friend to the shared apartment, Joona will receive the points for this propose a friend method, which will mean that he can live with his friend. They will now both live in Otaniemi, and raise kind of a team spirit at the shared apartment since they know each other. And the point is that to make living in shared apartments more desirable and longer. And what this means is that we make a couple of changes to the housing regulations. An addition that we have this 6 months due date as kind of a time that we don't have to adhere to that with the propose a friend method. And also this addition in order to make this proposing a friend even possible. Then the update to the scoring instructions is that we would add this propose a friend. So internet transfer 5 points, 1 point for the proposal. Then we also have this returning resident points, which means that if you, for example, have an go to exchange abroad before you leave, you can apply for a similar apartment that you can move in when you come back to Finland or back to studying. And we have 7 points to kind of put them in front of the line. And we also have this friend exchange, which is 10 points. So it's a kind of a twofold internal transfer point. So even if the other person doesn't actually move away, it means that it would be in line with Ara's proposals regarding the need for an apartment, if it would give 10 points. So this is the new scoring that we propose, which has 3 new items. 2 of them are actually already there, but we just make them more visible this way. Thank you. Questions related to this? Apparently no. Only love and acceptance. Yes, we love you too. Thank you. We can close discussion. Make the decision. The Presidency Council decided to approve the updated housing regulation and additions to the scoring instructions. Closing item 9. Moving to item 10. Approval of the letter of intent concerning the student center. Yes, good evening everyone. 10th time, maybe if this is the last one this year. Then we kind of a repetition, because KY had their Presidency Council meeting yesterday, but please bear with me. So not just news, but also the proposal of intent, letter of intent. First, let's go through the letter of intent. First, I will tell you what the letter of intent is, what its purpose is, and as you've seen from your emails, there's been some changes recently to the situation, so we'll go through the recent changes also with TF's representatives present. So first, the letter of intent. So its purpose is to make all the parties commit to the project plan and design proposal. So in practice, well, the project plan is a report that gives all the essential information about the project, its scope, expenses, schedule, maintenance. Then we have the design proposal. We need an architect for that, and the architect have this kind of proposed solutions that can be used to achieve these goals. And according to our schedule, we should be completed with this next summer. So you have the new updated timetable, kind of similar to the one we've looked at before, but there's kind of a new dependency arrows here, clarified the start of the year a bit, and we would like you to pay particular attention to the design proposal, that we want it to be approved in December, and then we could select a project leader, project manager, because as you can see from the timetable, we have a lot of hectic spring if we really want to stick to the schedule. So we have to select the architect on a very tight schedule. That's why we started preparing it already this year. And the purpose is to have this facility program from the design proposal during the first 3 months. And we hopefully have the architect at that point. So as soon as we have the facilities program, the architect can start drawing up the design proposal. So we have the preliminary proposal for the zoner at the end of March, which is our deadline. So for the zoning party, we have to get the information to them if we want to affect the zoning plan, because we sent to the urban planning board in June. So it is a new kind of a finished blueprint, just that it has the essential things needed in a blueprint. Then we continue the planning of the project, and then we go to develop these kind of new proposals, kind of a reform the entire interior plan, for example. And then the objective would be that we would have the project plan that we can approve and move forward. So the intention of this letter of intent is to make all parties committed until the project plan is approved, unless all parties see that we cannot do this joint project. And this letter of intent will be very kind of binding. Then we have the separate construction design decision, when each party has the possibility to leave the project. But if all parties decide to start the construction design, then we are committed to the project until its end. And the timetable is that we would have this decision made in the summer or in early autumn. And other contents in this letter of intent is that it authorizes the working group to select the head designer, architect designer. Also binds them to do the actual design proposal, and also binds everyone to expenses that are a maximum of 150,000 euros. And we also went through this with Sara Korpi, this letter of intent. Each party has gone through it. We've collected comments. Also have internal discussions in the office, in the financial real estate committee, the real estate section. And then a lawyer also checked it that it checks out. Then we had the final letter of intent made that each party was satisfied with. And all parties had meetings this week of their decision-making bodies. The plan is to have the decision made this week. As you saw in your mail, last Wednesday from TF told us that they cannot approve this letter of intent. They continued their internal discussion, and there were several points that they want to change. And on Monday, at TF's meeting, as far as I know, they authorized the board to finalize the letter of intent and to approve it after the changes. So TF wants to make changes before committing to the letter of intent. And the points that they want to change is related to the selection of the project leader, the architect, and about the schedule and phasing. On Monday, we and KY sent this kind of a communique to our representing councils. They were very concise. We also talked about things that we actually knew about. And also TF had a more in-depth description sent via email. Then I'll introduce the board's proposal, then ask Valtteri up here. On 29th of November, the board decided that we would present the letter of intent to represent council on the 29th of November. We translated it, sent to you, and the board still proposes that you would approve this letter of intent, but at this point it means that it is not binding because it has not yet been approved by all three parties. But why the proposal is that we would approve the letter of intent is that it would make clear your will, and will also give the mandate of the representative council to this plan we have made with Sarako and for the steps we have planned out, and also give support for the next year's representative council for this project. I think I will continue on this a bit later about how we will move on with the project. Then we'll go through the actual decision-making discussion. But now, TF representatives, if you could come up here and tell more about this and answer questions if you have them.
Hello everyone, and thank you for having us today. I'm Valtteri Berggren, and I'm in the DF board as the campus correspondent. With us it means that I'm in charge of student center and also the current plot development. And I'm the board president for DF this year. So if we start with the contract, or intention contract, why we are doing this, we have two goals. One of which is that to get a preliminary plan drafted together and to also start the design process for the part. And we are all in agreement on what the goal is. The discussion is taking place in order for us to depict how to reach the goal. And like Marianne told, is that this contract has been worked within the work group with Sarako and Sarako. When we were taking this contract into decisions, we had comments that was something that was wanted to brought into the discussion, that would get a better contract and get into the goal. And the main point here is regarding the timetable and the shifts in what stages of work. The current program is that we start from the start of the year and create a facilities plan with which we will make a proposal. But this plan is not kind of an item which has been made into budget plans or approved by all parties in our decision-making organs of trust. And when making this kind of draft and giving this forward to the city of Espoo, it will be the template for the zoning. And this template for the zoning will actually hamper us in the future on what kind of a building can we actually design. It will hamper or define the dimensions. So here the central comment to here is that we need to get a clear idea so that this design will be based on an item that has been approved and is something that all the parties want. So that in the decision states we don't have these expensive iterations where it's hard to ask on like what facilities could we actually have here, what do we need, and it doesn't match with the plot or the zoning. So we might end up with a different kind of building that we actually want. That has been approved in the meetings by the parties. The other comments that we also raised are more based on the fact that they clarify issues regarding the contract to do with work group, individuals, other comments. We had some of these. The main point was that there were wishes that we need changes to the document or this contract, because in the end the goal that we want to reach is that we can actually get this plan and this contract created. We can create the groundwork to get the zoning done. So these are the same goals that we all want to do, and these comments were only based on the fact that we can actually reach the goal better. And this is why, like Marianne said, last Monday at the meeting we made a decision that we have the mandate to do the finalizing touches because we want to move this forward within this year. And hopefully we can find a solution where we can actually get this into fruition, because the most important point here is that how can we find a solution to move forward. The document itself is not important, but the goal, what we reach with the document, is. Thank you. Do we have anything from TF? Nope. So we will continue with Marianne's presentation and continue. Yes, so what is our vision on how this project will move forwards? The next steps is that we need to reach an understanding about the project leader, because about the choice we've had some different opinions. We have a meeting with the work group tomorrow where we will be discussing this, and that AYY's and KY's point of view is point is that to continue with Sarako as has been planned and that has been decided originally. And also, as was evident, that we have differences in opinion on what would be the timetable to move forward with the project. We need to find common ground, and that's something we'll doing with the work groups in Sarako next Monday. We have a meeting with them. And what is in the works with Sarako is the choice of architects. The preparation work is ongoing. According to the timetable, it's very something that comes up very quick. And one step was what we had a Monday meeting with AOA, who is this architect company that has won the Mountain Man competition out of the entire block design. And they're also designing something for Aalto there on the same block. Then was the plot issue and developing it forwards. The plot where we were supposed to build the student center is owned partly by Senaatti and partially by Acre, and we should rent. We are planning to renting from Acre, and so we need to do some sales. And also the zoning is an issue here, which is the most timetable constrained one, and we need to organize a meeting with the zoning officials that we can actually get a good picture on what will place on the zoning plans. We have lots of trainings, lots and lots of trainings for the entire Representative Council is changing. We have new staff members. Next year's board will have 2 student center representatives, as you already know. We have Kimmo and Emily. So we're talking about differing on, we have language issues and roles to think of. And of course, because this is a critical situation, is that I will be continuing as a member of staff with the project. So you'll be seeing more of me next year. Thank you. Yes, okay, thank you, Marianne. Then moving on to the discussion on the topic. Pyry, then Emma, and microphone, please. So has Sarako been commenting so that we are we have a symbolical contract and something. The microphone was not on. So this is actually an open issue. Do we have a binding contract, or are we going with a symbolical contract? Is that we find out the common ground during discussion, but the goal is to move forward with the issue as fast as possible and get this plan wrapped up. And regarding your first question, with Sarako, we have had some discussion, in like short discussions, but we had this kind of surprising issue that this timetable would be different from their plans, and they stand behind the thoughts that have been voiced and discussed beforehand, but we will be probably discussing more on Monday, that we still haven't received the direct contact into that. Microphone is still offline, or at least I'm not hearing it, so thank you. Yes, no. The microphone wasn't on, so yes. About the choice of architect, does this mean that the preparation will be started? Is that do we have any other options than AOA, or is this something that's unknown, or I just can't be sure. I can't have a sure answer. There are many different points of view. We've had lots of discussions about what are the options available, what needs to be found out before we even know what our options are. What would it require that we continue cooperation or start cooperation with AOA? Is that start cooperation with another party? What would it mean and what would it need? Yes, Emil. I just received information that that the Kylltari Representative Council has returned this to preparation. I would see that based on this, it's good that we could do the same and let this be decided by next year's Representative Council. Yes, the business students, some of the people participated in the meeting and comment, but they had a Representative Council meeting on the same subject yesterday with KY. Let's have Topi's answer there in between. Yes, as a straight comment, I was there in the meeting yesterday, and we were discussing on the subject for a long time. And the contract was kind of that we were ready at KY to accept this contract, that the idea would be that all parties would accept this contract. And now in this stage, it was felt that KY has a pretty clear stance on the issue, is that the KY stance is to continue with the project full speed ahead, and we've seen that this project plan preparations, so making the preliminary contract would be the starting point for the cooperation work, and that there's kind of a nuanced issue that we wouldn't see the need that if it wouldn't be approved on TF's side, that there. Joni Anni. Also, thought we mentioned most of the points I was going to make, but about transparency issue that the KY board and KY Representation Council has more background on this issue that we can maybe continue to the AYYE. What can we share with AYYE is that there's TFs, and in addition to the email there are some other issues pertaining to it, but all in all KY felt that currently we shouldn't approve the deal, return to preparation, because we will have to approve it next year anyway. Yes. I see zero reasons not to accept the contract, because we don't have anything to lose. So if we approve it here, and then we'll have changes, that we will have an approved contract which is not binding, that we can just re-approve it. If, however, we approve it now and KY and TF decide that it's okay and they approve it, then we are actually still in a good situation to move forward with it. We don't have anything to lose by approving the current contract, current plan. It's nice to say the last word here in these contract issues, but I think it's pretty pointless. Yes, Sandra? Yes, thank you. It's nice to be here talking about it, because it's kind of a historical issue. Between 2015 I was in AYYE board with Siiri Salli, who was in the KY board doing in campus, and with Jennifer Pitkänen doing TF, starting the project. And it's been fun to say that 4 years have been in the development, and AYYE has increased their pace. And currently we have this these worries that have been raised, that there might be problematic situations, that it's good to actually be prepared, but you cannot be prepared for absolutely everything, which is true. That it's very important that these parties will be moving in together, have the trust to the other party and to the common vision and joint vision. And you can never be totally sure on anything, but currently I feel that I have lots of trust in this project, and I second very much in that on AYY's side, this kind of sort of a show of trust for this project and a kind of a depiction of will would be very relevant. And to show this trust and approval is that we should approve this plan today, even if it would mean that there would be up and coming changes for this. KY and TF did this very much before 2015, and this will has been on the table for a long time. Yes, Emil, followed by... During Emil's speech, you should bring forth your request to the floor, after which we may move to actually decide things. To return on this comment, is that if in this contract we have problems, and we have more problems that have been brought forth, is that if we approve this, and then KY approves this and TF approves this, that we have brought forth these problems in these contracts that might come and bite us on the ass later. That so if the work group brings this forth, and we could maybe approve this when it's prepared as is. Joni and Emma. I would also like to add that the KY Reps Council decided that the main points of the contract was depicted as good, so there was a practical things why it was returned to preparation. Maybe to Onni's and Santari's comment, and the second, that I agree that it would be very important for AYY's side to show kind of solidarity in this issue. Because what Emil said, that we might have problems and we might a perfect contract. There will not be a perfect contract. It's something that's very utopistic. We've used 4 years. We've been in the same situation where it means that there's always room for improvement. We have always problematic issues. The construction projects are problematic inherently. So if we have a contract that can give an ideological ground and basic groundwork for it, which is not binding, so it's kind of it would be silly not to approve the contract. Yes. I don't have any other requests for the floor at this stage, so we'll be next. What happens is that we have the deciding for the issue. We've had different kinds of ideas, returning this to preparation. Do we want to vote on returning to preparation? Do we have somebody who... Fielman wants to vote on this. Does somebody want to second this motion to vote? Yes, we have a seconded motion to vote. So we'll first vote that will this be prepared to return to preparation, and after which we will be voting on whether or not to accept it if it's not returned to preparation. So do we have any other requests for the floor regarding to returning to preparation? So we clearly have comments on the issue that have been voiced. So there. So that we've earlier discussed about if the parties decide to approve it. The point is like why TF is not approving is that we have 2 organs of trust that decide on things. Like we have old alumni, and they've said that they can't approve this as is, and I can't really see that they would suddenly decide to change their point of view out of the blue. So it's very important to AYYE that we have kind of a show of solidarity here, and we'll have to make a new contract in the spring. I don't know if do we lose anything, the fact that deciding an approval now and doing a new approval during the spring with slight differences, but it's a bit silly, but so what have been voiced is that this will not be approved in its current form, is that if this contract will be approved, this will be most of all a symbolical gesture for the project. But because we is a wish for a vote, a seconded opinion for voting on returning to preparation, which will be something that we will next vote on. Next, everybody has their voting slips, I trust. Blue is so-called the template, which is not returned to preparation. But this is the template, yes. And red means returning to preparation. So everybody is clear on this. What are we voting on? Fantastic. Everybody has their voting slips, and when I say go, you will vote. So slips up now. This is a clear majority for the template. So we'll not return this to preparation. Next up, we will vote on the decision to approve of the contract. Do we want to vote on the approval of the contract, or will the contract actually unanimously be approved? Do we want to vote? Fielman wants to vote. Does somebody second it? I propose that we do a closed ballot vote. It is his right to request it. Then we will do just that. A closed ballot vote. Do you have seconding for the closed ballot vote? You need to second it. Okay. Then ask the vote counters, Luukan and Pietikäinen, to come up front. It's awesome that we have this kind of ... Everybody who does not have the right to vote will remove themselves from the room and cut the stream for now. It's 1941 and we will continue the meeting. Silence, please. Vote counters, please. The Representative Council has given their vote. Accepted votes numbered in 26, 0 disqualified votes, and yes options with 23 votes and nay with 3 votes. 0 empties. Thank you. We have an additional member arriving. 41. Yes. Okay, so moving to decide. Perhaps the Council decided to approve the preliminary contract. Approved, decided, and closing item. Moving to the item. The interpreter has lost the agenda. Yes, updating of the brand strategy for your information. It says the AYYE has a brand strategy which has been approved by 2017. That has been in effect until 2020. Which means that at the office we had lots of grey hairs when we wanted to think of what does this mean at the end of 2019, what does it mean until the end of 2020. What does it mean? We decided in the end of the year that it means that the end of this year, that this needs to be updated. Yes. So no changes to the brand strategy. The timetable was pretty strict. What we discussed with the board and with the brand working group member in 2017 is that now the brand is new enough and coherent that they don't have anything that needs to be updated currently. It is current, but in this Finnish version we have this weird name, brandivisio, brand vision, which should be changed into brand strategy, brandistrategia, in all 3 languages. And the brand vision, brandivisio, was in Finnish one, and the Swedish and English ones we had the brand strategy. So no other changes. Thank you for your short and concise presentation. Any comments on this or questions? Looks like no, so I will close discussions on the item and move to decide that the proposal was that the Representative Council decided to approve the upgraded brand strategy for a new 2-year term until the end of 2021. Decided. Closing item 11, moving on to item 12, decision on the technical student meeting regulation with Ylimäki presenting.
Yes, I've been standing forever. So, we'll first shortly go through the changes made after the comment round, the preliminary discussion that is. Then we'll go through the proposal for change, because the goal is to make the decision on this document today. So, the first change. A lot of discussion about this teekkari advocacy. In the field of technology, Yva also commented that this raises questions. So now we're talking about also about the culture of technical students. To clarify things. That does this new body would have some kind of a new advocacy tasks. And then we also fixed the association names to the correct ones. And section 6. There's a comment that from Yva that There are nowhere else there has been defined the conditions for membership, so it's here now that if the association no longer admits new technical students, then the association's membership can be terminated. So from section 4 of this document about them, which defines the members of technical student meeting. Then section 9 about the convening the meeting. Yeah, it's just kind of a clarification and removal. So previously it said that if the chairperson convenes, then they would meet, but we removed that. So now that the right of the chairperson to convene the meeting has been removed, and it has been specified that what members, let's talk about at least 1/3 of the members, they are the members of the technical student meeting, to make it clearer. Then we have talk about the chairing the meeting. That we kind of different opinions on whether this chairperson should be a member of AYYE board or someone else. When we board discussed this, they saw that maybe we shouldn't specify it too much, that it has to be a member of the board, because this phrasing now allows it so that it can be a member of AYYE board or not. So we didn't see any need to make changes to this section. Then based on the preliminary discussion, there's an addition that all AYYE members have the right to attend the meetings, so this would not be just this very ambiguous closed body. Then in section 15, there's some proposals for change here. We can go through them soon. Thereafter, the AYYE board shall approve decisions after which they enter into force. But there's a proposal for change for this, and the board's proposal is now this, but let's go through these later on. Any questions regarding these additions that I now presented? Okay. So now I'll open the Excel file with the proposals for change.
Aloitetaan täältä nyt ensin tulleesta. Eli täällä on ollut lisäysehdotus. Paavo Pietikäisen
A proposal for addition that AYYE board makes the proposals for the agenda for the meetings. As I go up there to give the board's comments on this. There were the proposal then and what the board has decided. Hello? Yeah, vice chairperson of the board. We went through this proposal for change before submitted before 3 p.m. today. So I will now tell you what we have discussed, because we really don't have just one person responsible for this particular document. So this proposal that the proposals made to the agenda for the meeting would be made by the AYYE board. We discussed this and we felt that this goes against the purpose and intent of the technical student meeting. because the board felt that the technical student meeting was established in order to give the power to decide and discuss on these tekkari issues away from the board as the council to the tekkari students. So if we would have this addition that the board goes through the agenda and then makes proposals for the items, then this would kind of be against this purpose. So we just more rather listen to the technical students, not tell them what to do. The next, that only issues in the agenda will be handled, but the matter can be deemed urgent with a majority of 5/6 of the members. It was good, we approved this, but we moved this under a different section than was proposed. So it was proposed that it should be under section 10, but we felt that it's more appropriate in section 15, which is processing of matters and decisions. And then the next, we also changed it a bit and approved this. There's a removal and an addition. Is that the AYYE board shall approve decisions after which they enter into force. So we retained this second sentence in the original text, because without this sentence there is no document which would state that what are the grounds that AYYE board will reject some of the decisions, so to make matters more transparent, so that people will see that if board rejects some kind of a matter, it is because that the board feels that it conflicts with the values or operations of the student union, not just the way that the board just feel good about it. Then, about this processing of matters and decisions proposal, this proposal change that was submitted at 3:40. We didn't discuss this at the meeting because we started the meeting at 3. But we approved of this proposal, that the meeting will approve of matters with a majority of 3/4. And you can discuss on these two proposals, which are kind of a go against each other, and you can also make new proposal for change if you feel that the board's approval of this addition was an incorrect decision. But we felt that this would be good, this 3/4 majority in decisions. Thank you for this very thorough presentation. Next, we will see if we have any new proposals for change, if someone wants to vote on some of these which were rejected or do something else. And of course, if you can also vote on rejecting the board's approvals of these changes. I want to vote on the proposal that the board didn't have the time to go through. Santeri? I support this Pyry's proposal because even though this meeting would discuss traditions mostly, we don't see this as a reason to make it this kind of organization that will make it difficult for them to develop these kind of traditions, because the tradition needs to be that we can develop them, change them if needed, and we can do this by showing the way, and that's why this simple majority is better than making it that even if just a small minority can kind of prevent the development of these traditions when needed. I think it is majority of 3/4, which means that we consciously make the development of these traditions more difficult and not put faith in the future operators, people in this meeting. And if we want to kind of stop, prevent rushed decisions, it will be much better than this proposal that it needs to be approved in 2 consecutive meetings with a simple majority. I think especially this less than 1 month is not relevant in my opinion in this proposal. Yes. I think that we should also discuss this proposal for change regarding the proposals for the meeting made by the board. So who would do these proposals to the agenda? Because the board doesn't actually have a opinion when drafting these proposals. It can go in such a way that, for example, the board discusses with the person who has proposed this item on the agenda and then together decides on the proposal on the agenda. And this would avoid a situation where we don't have any kind of proposal when meeting with the technical student meeting. And this technical student meeting does not kind of detach teekkari people from AYYE. This is just a tool for AYYE board to get information on what technical students feel and want. But it was kind of an issue that the board does not approve of it, and then it's kind of a peculiar situation when the board has not even made their own proposal about the item that they want to reject. So I think that would be good if the board would make these proposals, would just prevent the situation from getting out of hand. So it's kind of we don't have any kind of procedure for that, because there is, I think about making the proposals to the agenda. We have several items that we want to vote on, because we could have an item-specific discussion on them. Yes, I support Onni's proposal. Yes, it's good to give some thought on how to make the agenda coherent and have the decisions, the proposals in a good condition. But we, the board, we have faith in the chairperson of this meeting and the other people active in the technical student meeting that they will make good decisions. That we don't want that much power and also work to us, as has been proposed. Okay, then we will see which proposals we will vote on. And have a short discussion on each proposal. Yes, I'd like to say that I also support Huhtinen's proposal, because I don't want that the meeting would be in a situation where this is kind of a very difficult issue and neither kind of a party gets a 3/4 majority. Then do we just have to wait for the people to change? So I think it is much better to have the simple majority in order for this body to function properly. Because it's 3/4, it just kind of puts everything into a deadlock. So if I understand correctly, we have 2 issues that people want to vote on. Huhtinen's addition to section 15 also changed the original template a bit. It's kind of very easy to get confused when handing out the speeches when handling the different items. So, this is a proposal that the board approved of about the deciding a processing of matters. So this proposal for change would replace this proposal approved by the board. So you can copy this over there to this another section to make things clearer. Because the proposal of change wants to remove this item and add this and replace it with this sentence. Another issue you want to vote on is that the proposals for items on the agenda will be prepared by the AYYE board. So is there someone who supports this since Virki is not present? Yes, we have a supporter for this.
Joo, siis piiloon.
So let's hide these items that we are not going through now in order to avoid confusion. Something happened, something unexpected, but now it looks very nice. Here we're now formulating this in such a way to make it clearer. Are there any more proposals for change? Because you have to make them now, because now we will move on to the vote. Or actually go through these proposals very quickly, have a short discussion, and then we will have the vote by using the voting slips. In the original, there are no line numbers, so if this is approved, then we will see what line it should be added on, because it's not yet clear. In order to clarify things, we have to kind of figure that out now, that on what line this proposal will be added to. So section 10. Where if it is accepted this proposal that proposals in the agenda are prepared by the board, where do you want that sentence to be added? On line 82, after this sentence, yes. So let's go into the order according to the document. That is the regulation. So first we will go through this proposal for addition for section 10. That the proposals in the agenda for the technical student meeting will be prepared by the AYYE board. So it is okay that we will have the discussion on both of these proposals and then have a vote on both of them. So if you have any short speeches to make, now's the time. Just a couple of speeches, please, for this proposal. Yes, our group's kind of points about why the AYYE board should prepare these proposals. We do not support this because these have to be really decisions have to be made by the technical students and not make the AYYE board spend their work time on proposing issues related only to technical students. So what would be the function of the technical student meeting if the board prepares? So we support this. The first proposal, not the second one. Yes, I very much approve of this, that the board would make the proposals for the agenda. Because as Onni said, someone needs to do it, someone needs to be defined that who prepares these proposals, and AYYE board is responsible for our student union. So the intention is that this technical student meeting will make decisions as part of the student union, which would mean that the AYYE would also need to be aware of these administrative issues. So this would not mean that the board would need to take a stand on the actual contents of the items on the agenda, but in order just to have good administration and that the technical student meeting can focus on making the decisions. Yes, I agree with the board on this, that let's just give the technical students the chance to see that they can make things work, and if it doesn't, then we can add it there, that please someone make us the proposals to the agenda, because we can do it ourselves. I think the chairperson of this meeting is one of the most important persons, and I think that these persons propose regarding this 2/3 majority, we should really consider this opinion. And now, after this, for this item, no more requests for floor. Thank you. I think you should take into notice that the board doesn't need the technical student meeting in order to make decisions. So if board has a clear kind of policy, clear stand on an issue, we made discussions with sections, for example, and we already prepared the issue in such a way that we can make the decisions. We don't need to take it to the technical student meeting, this issue. So it's kind of peculiar that in these kind of issues, the AYYE board, to force them to make proposals for issues that people have felt that the board cannot decide on, and that's why we need this meeting. So it will be important to allow such a situation where these members, the communities that propose some item on the agenda for the technical student meeting, could also themselves prepare the proposal, and then we could have discussion based on that proposal. And if we have this, that the board makes the proposals, this would mean that the board still can make decisions on issues on the agenda for the technical student meeting, and they can make these decisions before the meeting, or according to section 15, revoke this decision later on. For example, take the central message from the item and then make a separate decision. I share Thompson's sentiment that what point would there be that AYYE board would focus in those kind of internal issues? Because what would be a kind of a proposal that doesn't take a stand on anything? Of course, if you make a proposal for an item on an agenda, it's always a stand, it's always a voicing of an opinion. You cannot make a proposal without voicing your opinion. So that's why I don't see the point to use the board's time and resources on this.
Okay. The proposal by Pietikäinen and seconded by Huhtanen, the comment on item. As an answer for the issue, my idea here is that AYYE's board would curate the template. Doesn't necessarily mean the work, but is the party that taps the gavel, that it goes to the agenda of the Tekari meeting, and that the administrative organ of trusts has the job of the process, so it's not a surprise on what happens, what comes out of the Tekari meeting. They make the preparatory work. I think that we need some sort of defining regulation that defines the activity of the meeting. It's weird that this regulation does not define the administrative process on how the meeting decides on these issues. Meaning that if you have, for example, you have from different parties, you have items coming up on the agenda. It'd be good that these all go through the board, that the board may, at their own discretion, take into the template these the proposals that have been presented by the community. But I would like something in this piece of paper that says that what decides these issues. I am ready to, for example, form it so that AYY's the AYYE board has the required right to do the templates. It needs to be a default party making these proposals, and the argument that the AYYE board should not use time for things important to them. I'd say from my last meeting that AYYE board uses time for different things, and some of them even less value than this, speaking from experience. So this is not a comment for this year's board, but what we used to do. Next up, Pollari and this I'll have the here Pollari's comment and make the proposal, or the amendments to the proposal. Second, the board's template. The idea is that this is neutral, a neutral tool for the board. And if we have a situation that the board will place 10 items on the agenda for the Delegationsmöte meeting, then we'll just shoot them all down. We end up in a situation where there's kind of a quarrel in the Delegationsmöte community and with the board due to the board's activities, that this is something kind of a threat. It's a clear issue. So the board lets the meeting be neutral and make them their own decisions according to their regulations. Does Lampi have the application to make an amendment? So we'll make an amendment so that it can be made by AYY's board. Do these compete? This competes with because this is not my own proposal for change amendment, so for me made for example by the AYYE board. The aim is that we clarify the process of which party does the proposals. First off, we will vote on the... do we have a seconding for this proposal? Minkkinen is seconding. So we have 2 seconded amendments. Actually, additions, not amendments. We'll vote these against each other and vote on whether or not to pass this against the template. Next up, we will be discussing for Article 15, items on the agenda and decisions. Huhtanen has been proposed and seconded by Lukkanen. A change or an amendment to line a removal and an addition, yes. Do we have any comments or requests to the floor for this? Don't need a microphone at times. Does this item affect anything that can be done, even if we don't define it, it can be done? Is it an unimportant write-up? So talking about addition, it's saying like the sky is blue, so it doesn't give actual worth to the depiction. This was for Article 10. That can be done. It says we can do that right now. We can do amendments. So it doesn't actually give any grounds for any party to actually propose. So it's completely unnecessary to add it. For item 12, it is possible. So it's chaired by a chosen person, and the Delegationsmöte meeting needs to meet if it's requested by 1/3 of the AYYE board or the people. So if the AYYE board requests for a Delegationsmöte meeting, then the board has already made a template proposal for them to actually have a meeting. Something technical regarding the word form there. I would interpret that for Article 10, the proposals or amendments are here and the discussion has been undertaken. We will now move on to discuss Article 12 and the removal and amendment by Huhtanen and seconded by Luukkanen. Request for the floor for this one. Looks like no request for the floor for this item. So, at this stage I request, are these all the final requests for change, proposals for change or amendments, removals, etc.? Do you want to vote on all of these? Yes? So first off we will vote on the additions for Article 10. So these against each other and the winning one against the template. Because we have an earlier proposed by Pietikäinen and seconded by Huhtanen, this is the blue, and red is this Lampi, seconded by Minkkinen, addition. So blue placard is that the agenda items will be made by the AYYE board. Red slip if it's the amendments for the Delegationsmöte meeting can be made by, for example, the AYYE board. Is this clear what we are voting on? So where this amendment be on? Which line? So please ask. It's at the really the end of Article 10. There you can see Article 10 and it's the last item there. Last phrase. Everybody is now clear on what we are voting on? We'll now vote the proposals for change or the additions against each other. So it should be one that has been sent to you. The end of item 10. Can we get the Excel back? Sorry, this is twiddle these files around. Necessary evil. Next up, we will vote on this. The one above is blue and the one below is red. The word form being with the blue being can be made versus will be made. So reiterating. Is everybody ready and clear on what to vote? Packets up now. Pretty clear that red wins. So we'll vote this against the template. So we'll vote this word form of agenda items can be proposed by the AYYE. Can, for example, be proposed by the AYYE board, proposed against the template. So the template is that this item that will not be added, and red will mean that this amendment will be made with this addition. Everybody is clear on this? Clear? Good. Is it clear? Blue is template, red is amendment. Item is clear. vote counters. So the amendment is passed. Next. This for Article 15. This proposal will change because we have a removal and an addition. So this amendment. And here we are voting so that we are voting whether or not to make this. So blue is that nothing will be made, and red is that we will execute the removal and do the addition. Do you want to see the item in question? Yes. So here we are on Article 15, and this section, this will be left here or it will be replaced. So this is blue if it is left as is, and red is that we will remove that and do the addition in its place. I'm sorry that I'm... Has everybody understood what we are voting on and what means blue, what means orange, etc.? Good. Then vote now. This is a clear majority for red. Proposal for change prevails. Yes. Now we've gone through all the proposal for change, so we can move on to deciding. Sorry, I have my papers here somewhere. Close the discussions and move on to deciding. The Representative Council decided to approve the technical student meeting regulation. Decided. Thank you. Then closing item 12, moving on to item 13, complementing the finance board with Haldamäki presenting, or somebody presenting. So I have these in the presentation here, starting with the finance board in short. So short, as you can see on the whiteboard there on screen. This is the proposal for change is that why are we deciding on two student representatives, one from the tenants, one from the student union's representative. The tenant representative, why it's being decided, and why is the Representative Council do anything else than just approve it, comes from the Act on joint administration in rental properties. Depicts that in our committee we need to have a representative from the tenants. And you will see some names for the proposals. So I'll be telling more on this. So ASRY, the organ of trust, will be choosing the representative from the student union. Also, regulation section 33 says that we have a chairperson and 8 to 10 members in the committee, and half of them need to be members of the student union. In addition, this comes from our regulations, this comes from the Universities Act, and this is why we actually have a committee like this set in place, which was set to monitor our finances, that it's undertaken according to legislation. The Representative Council chooses these members for 2 years, and with half of them being resignation each term. So some of these members are members of the Representative Council, and others are people experts in financial situations with lots of expert opinions. In addition, the Representative Council will be choosing the chairperson for 1 calendar year at a time, and they need to be a member of the student union. Here is the board's proposals for the financial committee. Kari Vatanen, TI. We are proposing him. His current term would be ending in 2020, and he has very well executed and undertaken all his tasks, so it's seen as prudent that he continue in the committee chair position. Lippu Suominen and Petri Valkama, who are expert members, and their term is not ending, and they're also being decided. Jussi Valtonen would have had his term ending now, but he has presented that he wants to continue, so we are proposing him as an expert member. So, proposing this. And as student members, we have Joona Orpana, who is AYYE member, AYY's representatives, and Anne Vuoleapiola, who is an AYYE representative, actually a ASU representative. And new people, we are proposing Kari Karttunen, AYYE member, and ASU has chosen Werneri Huhtinen as their tenant representative. So their term would be ending in 2021, so 2-year terms. In addition, for your information, is that why we are fulfilling this committee is that we have the people resigning, who are Hanna Hidenpala and Mika Savolainen, who have been there as expert members, and their terms are ending at the end of the year, and Hanna has been at the start of AYYE in the 10-year term Hanna has done, so after this seems that we have maybe new challenges ahead. And from student representatives we have Paulus and Ilkka. We are proposing new people to replace them. Any questions? Okay, as a clarification, why? So it's not unclear. Well, why did I not place myself out of this? Because you're not. I'm not being chosen by the Representative Council, but this is ASU's proposal, which comes from the Act, which I'm not deeming myself ineligible. Okay, no questions or comments on this item, so we will move to closing the discussion and move to decide. And the proposal was that the Representative Council decide to appoint the members of the Finance Board in place of the resigning members and state the current composition. Closing item 13, moving on to item 14, supplementing the Directorate of the Fund for the Promotion of Eco Operations, where Anne will probably place themselves ineligible to decide on the matter. Onni is going to the toilet. So moving on to item 14, supplementing the Directorate of the Fund and for the Promotion of the Eco Operations with continuance. Going on to this item, forgot. We still have quorum. Yes, we have 25 in the room. Barely. So what I forgot to mention for the SO representative and the TTR board student representatives, we have an open application process that's been open for 4 weeks, which we used to seek applicants. Regarding the financial committee expert members, we have a straight recruitment process which will be fulfilled next year. Further off and now to the promotion of the Eco Operations Fund. So the TTR fund, the TTE fund. So how is this committee comprised of? Its chairperson and 6 other members, 3 of which will be matched by the Pyörän Tornin Gilda, the Guild of the Round Tower, which has been an organ of trust that's been creating this trust and this foundation of fund, and they have the right to present 3 members. And in addition to this, we have out of AYYE representatives will be placing 3 AYYE members as representatives, and this committee will be approved by the AYYE Representative Council. The chairperson is always chosen every year, and the members are chosen for 2 years at a time. And you can't be more than 3 times in the committee maximum. So here's the proposal for the TTE fund. We had the applications for both the chair and the member. We had 1 application for the chair. Tuukka has been there in the committee, so his slot was open when he changes into a chairperson role. He has been for a long time in this community and been very active. So he would be very good as a chairperson. And for student representatives, we are presenting for the ending terms. We have to replace Sirius and Jari, we have Onni and Amos. So they have been chosen through the open applications process. We had 5 applications for the TTE fund board. And based on interviews and applications, we decided to choose these individuals. Elli Taimela is the AYYE representative as well, and her term is not ending. And we had the other members, Janne Nevalainen and Jaakko Elleranta, are 2nd term halfway go through, so PTK usually has this idea that the PTK people are there for the 3 full terms, and they have the idea that we have people from each decade representing, so we can get both the historical continuity but also the new ideas, so also that AYYE doesn't need to think of the earlier issues. Tapani Kiminen, his term is ending, but PTK is proposing that he continues for the 3rd term until 2021. And this for your information, so. Thank you to Elina. Anything to say on this item? Looks like no, so thank you, Elina. Closing discussions and moving to decide. The proposal is that the Representative Council decide to place the members of the TTE Fund Directorate to replace the resigning members and the chair of the TTE Fund to determine the common composition decided according to the template. Closing item 14, moving on to item 15, the Office Program 3 2019. Actually, that item is different. It's been moved. So choosing of the auditing company for 2019. Famous item on the agenda, regrettably so. So I'm going to decide on what we are actually deciding on. Presenting, so in Edustajiston 2020, that this is the same presentation as we had in the previous meeting, because we have a legally binding audit in the entirety, that now that we are choosing this auditing firm, is that we are deciding on the auditor of the student union, which is used on the entire consortium, not just in our student unions, but also in our real estate companies and their auditing. So the entire consortium is under the lens here, and choosing this firm and company. The aim of the audit is to ensure that our balance sheets and finances are in order and legally sound, and they give a good depiction of our current financial status. About 65% of the costs will be on the student union and consortium, and the rest on the daughter companies. So the auditing in AYYE, the choices has been as follows. So that for 2010, 2011 we have KPMG. We had the competitive tendering in 2009, and we chose Heidi Vieros as the chief auditor. 2012 to 2016, after KPMG, we have Ernst & Young with a new competitive tendering with Anne Vuorio as the chief auditor. And 2017-2018 we have KPMG again. The animation is a bit weird here, but let's not go into that. And like I said, 2017-2018 we have KPMG, return to KPMG, do new competitive tendering with Heidi Vieros once again as chief auditor. And for the next year, the new Representative Council has approved for 2020, so KPMG again, but here we have the decision that we kind of did a little mishap here, that we did not decide on one for 2019. But the criterion for the auditor company is that in addition to looking at the fact that how do we do the competitive tendering, what kind of costs are incurred from the entire process. In addition, we've used other criterion, including like what's the team like, who's the main chief auditor, we want an auditing firm who has experience on real estate and in student unions, and also knowledge in taxation legislation, and also evaluation of references. And so the proposal for 2019 is that the Representative Council would approve KPMG as the auditing company. We have been very satisfied with their work. Any questions? Looks like no questions. So thank you, Elina. Moving on to the side, the proposal was that the Representative Council chose as the auditing company for 2019 KPMG Ltd. Decided. Closing item 15 with applause. And moving on to item 16, the Office Program 3/2019 with Nieminen presenting.
Yes, the Office Program 3/2019. And the reason why it's so late is that maybe you wouldn't want to have it on the previous meeting's agenda since it was so lengthy. So we saw that we should move it to this meeting, and because this is only for informative purposes, we saw that it would be wisest to move it to this meeting and not cause any much harm this delay. So kind of a summary. So we have new measures projects, 7 of them completed, 9 removed 2, and in total 37. So 5 projects, measures for socially influencing 3, current advocacy measures 6, real estate strategy 7, others 9, advocacy measures 2, others 4. So I'll go through them now. You can look at it more in depth from the actual document. You will get more out of it that way. But if you have any questions, please think of them now and ask them after my presentation. So, from our completed projects, I'm going to put it either removed or completed, this development of community structures, because it's divided now into smaller parts. Because it's not just one massive thing, it's that we do this development work as part of different projects. We saw that we could remove this big project and put it under the measures for building the Aalto identity. And for that, what we have finished is updating the distribution model for the operating grants, and also the introduction of the advisory board for international advisory board. We've started that, and the night of Otaniemi was a success in autumn, in September. And we had more than just Aalto people from this Otaniemi community involved. And for our real estate strategy, for the measures, the updates for our one-time rental facilities at the Jämärän, we have completed that. We don't have to promote it that actively anymore. Well, many of these real estate strategy projects may continue for a long time, but it's also have to decide on what to put into the actual office program and how to say when they are completed. Also, this ITP project for development of the Domo system. And we have the results now, and we are now starting to go through them and utilize them when developing Domo. Other measures, other development of the managerial group, their operations. We have this kind of different days where we develop the operations of the management. I'm trying to ponder what its purpose is, and we will continue this work. But it's kind of a supporting new management is now completed. Because we have been supported and we have improved. Also with the Robson council elections, you also heard a lot about them. You know what happened. And also the Aalto Talent Expo 2019. We were involved in that in the planning phase and in the implementation phase not that actively, as Olli already mentioned at the start of the meeting. And it's also a completed project because it was done in October. And what we have removed is the coordination of campus issues, because we planned to recruit a campus expert, but we felt that we have more need for an employee for the student center project. So we kind of remove this, that we will not recruit yet the campus expert. So we'll add this back to the process that will actually do this. Also the introduction of contract invoicing. It's kind of a part of a bigger picture of our improving our financial management. So that's why we removed this from the other section. And the new measures for these two items: development of the Aalto identity, kind of the reception and organization of English bachelor's programs, and there are kind of also guilds formed around these programs. So when receiving new students, sort of coordinating that and clarifying the organization of this is now underway and under discussion for the community and international sectors. Also the equality of associations has been a topic of discussion in the board, which is now as a measure for building the Aalto identity. And we will do soon. You will receive our communication regarding this issue. Then the development of cooperation between the new active students. This is about the new students section, but we felt that as a headline does not accurately describe the idea of this. But the member of the board who is and also expert responsible for new students drives this work forward, and we also resourced more money for this developing the work of the cooperation of new students. And also that the KARI regulation is also here, that we already discussed. About real estate strategy, for development of our financing, we have a working group about to be established for that. That is a working group that can go through these about our real estate assets and their development. Also in the other measures we had the recruitment fair, kind of a very broad entry but we'll still take up some resources from a corporate relations sector and the member of the board responsible for corporate relations. And also me and Monica will work on that. And then for the corporate relations we have the AYYE 10 anniversary years, kind of the sales. This is now ongoing and we already have one main partner now. And for the projects, it is 5, the student center, website reform, AYYE 10 anniversary year, promoting equality and towards sustainable operations. These are all old projects that we have updated. The anniversary year is coming up next spring, so it's in full swing, the preparation. So it's going to be updated more on what will happen in the spring. And about the equality and addressing harassment is that, well, you now saw the report. It was presented today, and now we'll think about how to actually do things to promote equality in our community. And also sustainable development is a very topical issue. And you've already heard about student centers, so I won't go through that much in detail. And neither I will go through these other items. We had 3 measures for our societal influencing. This was a part of the office program previously, will continue to be there. And this is self-study, facilities, tools. Then halbed.fi reform of the website. It's still not quite yet completed. And the intention is to have this website also for the perusal of other student unions, but we have to test it out first ourselves before we can sell it to others. Also the Halbed online training, we are already writing a report on that. Then the measures for development of the Aalto spirit. You can see on the yellow, there are the new measures related to this. And the old measures are the launching the alumni activities, which are now worked with our new association expert. So we even started these alumni activities now. For example, the night of Otaniemi. We also have a bigger alumni event coming up. So the future of the Aino magazine, looking into that, is also an issue. And we'll have a survey related to that, to get the Robson Council's kind of a will to make it clearer. Then about the real estate strategy, you can see the measures. About the one-time rental facilities, the automatization and the locking systems, we are still working on that. And also the building of new apartments. This is the responsibility of the financial manager and the chief of the real estate unit. And we also present them to Takiva and the real estate committee. And then creating an investment program. We're also working on that. And also about the communality in housing and also general development of our housing activities. Also the development of communications related to housing and facilities. And the goal is to this kind of a interactive communication between tenants and AYYE to improve that. Then other measures, implementation of the brand, it's still going on. Then also development of AYYE's brand as an employer, which is also an ongoing project. So development of our internal communications, a lot of workshops on that. Thought about how to develop it. And of course this is related to how to improve the communications in 3 languages. Also reform of the email newsletters. Also development of sales processes. We also now implemented these new processes in our sales of the AYYE 10 corporate relations. to get more money for the anniversary year. Then the tech project. When I want to have this a ramp to Smökki, but we still are kind of a bottleneck with licensing authorities. And the scholarship regulations, we are updating that. Samu is handling that, who is responsible for the scholarships. Then about our current advocacy measures, kind of common regulations related to studies and students. We are working on them, and the board comments on them regularly. Then influencing the Aalto-University strategy. The strategy was just approved a while ago, and we will continue to keep an eye on how the strategy is actually implemented and how our objectives are implemented. Other topical issues. We have some recruitments. We've updated them, new recruitments. We now recruited a new communications expert who starts their work on Monday. Smart services, the one-time rental facilities, accessibility survey, and also recycling, improving the recycling opportunities in one-time rental facilities. We are also actively working on that. Also for artistic activities and projects, we have the AYYE 10 project, the historical publication, product competitions, but also have this kind of new section for artistic activities in the future. And we also listed some events that we have held. Thank you. Any questions?
Emma first and then Anton. Do we have a working microphone? Yes, they are both working. Fantastic. So we have microphones that work. Quick question regarding the real estate property committee. Will this be work groups? Sorry. Will this be an expert work group or volunteer? It's experts and volunteers from students. Yes. Yes, so we have experts and students based on more weight on students, different backgrounds, different combos, so we have the community view to the real estate side of things. Looking at this sustainable development office plan, we have lots of resources on this, but there is the option to use strategic funds with a board's decision. Wasn't the strategic fund removed? Yes, it was removed, but this has been presented to the Representative Council, but this has been undertaken in many different parties and worked. So yes, so it's not possible because this has been removed in effect. A good clarification on that part. Any other questions? So, closing decisions and moving to decide. The Representative Council decided to place on record the office program for 2019. Closing item 16, moving on to item 17, other emerging matters. Do we have other emerging matters? Well, I do. So, yes. Traditionally in this item, this Representative Council, at the end of the year, the meeting, we have remembered some of the parties in this Representative Council, and we were asking with the chairpersons through a form, and we were also thinking amongst ourselves some of these issues, and at this stage we will have some commendations for 2 groups and 4 people. So, first as we want to give thanks to a group that has been active in many social media channels regarding the Representative Council's term, meaning Luova. Congratulations. You may all come here up front. So here is a kind of a Christmassy chocolate box. Congratulations to Luova. Like something on social media. Onni as the social media master will take a picture. And here in not all, so we'll also give rewards to a group that with an active electoral campaign and got a good result. So vihreämpi Aalto, greener Aalto. Congratulations to them. Fantastic. And also to you and Luova some chocolates. Congratulations. Next, we'll go to the individual side of things. First off, group chair, who has done their work diligently, with good timetabling and getting everybody to participate. Anton Merekorpi. Thank you. For Christmas, Santa will give you a Santa, chocolate Santa that is. Congratulations. All giving to a representative council member who has a person group, brought out the arts point of view of things without any other supports. Elisa Rauma, who is regrettably not here, but congratulations to Elisa for the award. After this, we'll reward a very active representative council member who in their speeches has had a positive vibe. Henri Miettinen, thank you. And also with a chocolate Santa. Congratulations. And we also have a reward for... Whoops! Reveal the name! Reward a representative council member. Let's try to imagine. I didn't say the name. So, we reward a representative council member who has been active in looking at the material and been an active conversation starter. Marta Esinomer, thank you. Also a Santa for you. Thank you. And at this stage, I also want to thank, a reminder, we have the Friday Christmas party for the Representative Council, and also I want on my part to thank especially the interpreters, the OBS staff and personnel, and the board with whom I have been able to work, and the office staff, and the operational manager, Nieminen, and has been very nice, and I want to thank the entire Representative Council. Thank you. That's it. Microphone. Any other emerging matters? Tapio wants to say something. If somebody else has something, you may say it now. Tapio, you have the stage. Dear friends, it is the moment of goodbye on my part. We have done this journey for 2 years. It started in 2017 at the elections, and I wanted to help you. I wanted you to have your voice heard, and from the community you get this strong mandate to come here and use your voice. And 1 year ago you trusted me as the former of the board and gave me the great honor to form this great board, and I'm very thankful for that. And after this end of this 2-year path, you lifted me as the president of SYL. And I hope that we will keep lifting each other up in the future as well. We've done great things in 2 years. Last year we did a policy paper update, and thanks to it, AYYE is more effective in the world. We may change the world to fit us. We've done the student center with quite the temerity, and regardless of all kinds of mishaps, we have always found the way forward. We've been recruiting. We recruited a great operational manager and also a financial manager who will bring the student union forward. We made an ambitious program for the structural framework, and we received the first decision for that program. Thank you to the entire board, and on behalf of the board and the AYYE's parts, that you've done this task not for you, not for yourselves, but because you want to build a better student union for the coming student generations. It is very valuable. I've grown in these 2 years by a large margin, grown as a friend, as a leader, as a workmate, so thank you for everything, for challenging me, for supporting me and trusting in me. Thank you. Okay. So we are kind of reaching the final moments of the meeting. This ends my career with this upcoming financial committee task. It's good that some people will not continue forever. But closing item 17, moving on to item 18, closing the meeting. The time is 3 minutes past 9 p.m. I end the meeting. Menee oikein. Yes. Olisikohan tuonne käydä sanomassa, että meillä on saatu rahaa?